Mayor Hancock, there's a phrase that is often said. I can't claim that I originated it, but I use it. Vision without action is a daydream. Your action speaks louder than words, what you've done. Because the other side of the coin, which you also addressed, and that's the challenge of the airport city and the greater Aerotropolis, is that, yes, vision without action is indeed only a daydream. But action without vision can be a nightmare. And so you are leading the effort both with strategic vision and coordinated action, working with the communities around the airport, the cities, the counties, the business leadership, the state government. And I have every confidence that your vision through your coordinated actions will become reality very soon. In fact, it's already happening. So let's give the mayor one more round of a hand. I'm asked each of the airport city conferences to frame the sessions, and I'm going to be framing them in terms of the way we'll live next. I'm going to continue the theme of the mayor and Denver's initiative to look at airport cities and Aerotropolis as the way forward. The mayor really nicely highlighted the role that transit-oriented development has played over time in shaping business location, commercial development, and indeed urban life. He talked about the role of the railroad going into the mid-1950s. But throughout history, we know that transportation infrastructure, which we refer to as transit-oriented development, has really driven both urban and economic development. I don't need to go through this history, you're well aware of it, but we're at the fifth wave now, which began in the 1960s, slowly picked up in the 70s and 80s, it took off in the 1980s, began to get traction in the 90s, and came into its own in the 21st century, the fifth wave. And this is driven by a number of innovations that will characterize the way we live and work in the 21st century. Large, wide-body jet aircraft connecting the continents of the world quickly and efficiently, along with IT advances that allow us to trace, track, communicate, control. Globalization, not only of supply chains and producers, but consumers. We learned just last month that our leading corporation, we talk about Walmart, but for about 3 decades it was General Motors, was the leading American corporation. What was announced last month that this past year General Motors sold more cars in China than in the United States. So it's consumers, not just supply chains and producers. Speed, speed, speed. Time-based competition. It's not just survival of the fittest, it's survival of the fastest. It's not today in the 21st century, it won't be the big eating the small. It will be the fast eating the slow. We talked about turbulence. Both speakers mentioned it. I think if there are 2 words that characterize our polity, our politics, our society, our economy, today Mayor Hancock referred to the economy, it's turbulence and uncertainty. So when you have turbulence and uncertainty, you better be agile. And what is agility? It's nothing more than responding quickly and efficiently to constantly changing but unpredictable environments. We know there's going to be change. We just don't know exactly what that change is going to be. So you need speed, agility, and the third is connectivity. Because our world is increasingly networked, and it's physically connected. It's not just electronically connected. Through supply chains, through tourists, through other leisure travelers, through business executives. I say time and time again, business has been, is, and always will be a contact sport. You need that face-to-face interaction. Aviation has gone hand in hand with a concept of real value called perishability. Whether it's bioscience, pharmaceuticals, medical instruments, products, fresh fish, fresh-cut flowers. Air Cargo's created an entire global industry in fresh-cut flowers. Fashion's responsive. I wish I had time to go into it, but the fashion industry is increasingly tied to aviation and tourism. Tsunami, there used to be restaurants named Tsunami. There's a major one in Bangkok, a Japanese restaurant. It's got a bad name because of the disastrous effects that we know that tsunamis bring. But there's going to be a new tsunami in the 21st century. It's already started. It's the wave, the huge wave of tourists that will be coming to the U.S., Europe, South America, around the world. We've already passed 1 billion tourists moving internationally. By 2020, these figures are already got some figures this morning are out of date. They're expecting it to be over 1.8 billion tourists by 2020 traveling across borders. 110 million Chinese tourists alone by 2020. And so think of Denver. I mentioned this yesterday, meeting with this mayors and city council. If you can get just 1% of that 110 million from one country, that's 1.1 million tourists a year. And Mayor Bloomberg, our mayor of New York, did a study of the economic impact of tourists on the city, Asian tourists. And it ranged from $3,000 to $5,000 spent per tourist. So that's a huge, huge force that's affecting us. Global transport. It's been air transport. It's been cyclical, like real estate. But you never, ever make strategic decisions on cycles. You make strategic decisions on long-term trends, particularly when we're talking about runways, connecting infrastructure. Sometimes this can take 10, 15 years from concept to implementation of, let's say, a new runway or a hotel on airport property. You're going to go through many cycles. But look at this figure here. The mayor mentioned the early 80s. Look at the dip in aviation in the early 80s. Look at it again, stronger dip in 1991-92. Even stronger dip in 2001-2002. The bottom fell out in 2008-2009, but it's recovered. Aviation, watch my finger, goes like this. It has its cycles, it has its crises, but the trend is upward, and you make your strategic decisions not on cycles, but on long-term trends. This is the trend in passengers and cargo. You can see the 1980s I mentioned picking up and then accelerating. The 21st century will be the aviation century, guaranteed. Last year, about 4.9 billion passengers went through airports. ACI, IATA, their mid-range forecasts. In fact, I think they may be low, Greg and Angela, because I don't think they're taking into account some of the structural changes that are occurring in the world, not just tourism, but the rising incomes. The mid-range estimate is 13.3 billion people passing through airports in 2030, 36 million passengers a day. And people say, 2030, my God, I don't want to worry about 2013, not 2030. But think of 18 years and go backwards. That's 1994. That's 2030 in the future. 1994 for me wasn't that long ago. That's how fast things move. In the same period, air cargo will more than triple. Air logistics in the new economy are becoming more and more interwoven. Think of the new economy. Small, light, compact, high value to weight, microelectronics, pharmaceuticals, medical instruments, digitized auto parts, aerospace component, high value perishables, fresh fish, fresh cut flowers. If you study their supply chains, they all move around the world by air, 85, 90, 95% of those supply chains. 70% of the world's flour is sold, whether it's in Denver or Chapel Hill, North Carolina, go through their Miami, or Amsterdam, Schiphol. So that today, our research at the Kenan Institute shows that 36% of the value of world trade moves by air versus 1% by weight. And almost all high-tech supply chains are connected by air cargo, whether it's freighters or the bellies of passenger planes. This is what, in the book, Aerotropolis, The Way We'll Live Next, Greg Lindsay and I call the physical internet. This is an example of the physical internet, the Apple iPhone 4. Virtually all of these parts and components and finished goods move by air. I'd love to spend 5 minutes giving you the details, but I can't. But basically, parts and components are sourced in 9 countries, flown, assembled in a 10th, Shenzhen, China, and then distributed back through the United States and Europe, an 11th and 12th. That's the physical internet. But let me show you another example of the physical internet. This is the international route structure of United Airlines. This is what gives reality to globalization. This is the physical connectivity. The web will not move a box. Business is, as I said, a contact sport. Tourists actually move. So to have globalization, you need the physical internet. And in the 21st century, the physical internet will be increasingly international air routes, connecting those supply chains and business people. So as a result of this physical internet, the routers of the internet, the airports. Airports are the routers of the world's physical internet, the airlines. They've become major commercial magnets and regional, as the mayor indicated, economic accelerators. They provide accessibility, speed, and agility to global supply chains and perishables. They connect business people to their customers and enterprise partners nationally and worldwide. They serve the commercial needs of millions of air passengers and airport area visitors annually. So as a result of this, new aviation-driven urban forms are evolving. And that's what the mayor was talking about, airport cities and the greater Aerotropolis. Anyone that works with airports today will tell you airports are no longer airports. They're much more than aviation infrastructure where aircraft land and passengers and cargo transit. They really have become what that second bullet point shows. Multimodal, up to 3 other forms of transportation converging, usually at least rail and highway. Multimodal, multifunctional enterprises. There are many, many functions that go on besides the aeronautical functions at airports today that are generating considerable commercial development on the airports and well beyond their boundaries. And what we're saying is that all commercial functions of modern metropolitan centers are locating on and immediately around major airport sites, changing what was in the 1970s, for example, a city airport, into a city itself, the airport city. So we've moved from city airports to airport cities, which is part of the theme of the mayor this morning. The airport city, people here, I don't have to go in depth in this. You know this, how the shopping mall concepts have been merged into the passenger terminals, and how retail and restaurants have been moved increasingly upscale, how more and more leisure activities to relax the passengers and provide a better experience have moved in, including culture, museums, regional art, musicians, even weddings have become big business at Europe's major airports. And logistics and air cargo that I just described, as well as landside, of course, being in the public area, the hotels and entertainment and office and retail complexes and convention exhibition centers, the foreign trade zones, free trade zones they're called, outside the United States, and all types of time-sensitive goods movement. This has had a huge business impact. So today, the daily consumer population at major airports is larger than that of most mid-sized cities, and their incomes are higher. Take the figure that the mayor just gave about Denver. 52 million passengers annually passing through this airport. You take all of the people last year that visited Disney World, that visited our historic Grand Canyon, the beautiful Rocky Mountain site, very, very highly visited site. Visited, last year we were in Memphis, Graceland, the second most visited home tourist attraction in the United States next to the White House. Everyone that went to Disney World, everyone that went to the Grand Canyon, everyone that went to Graceland, add them all up, 40 million. So more people went through DIA's terminal last year than combined went to Disney World, the Grand Canyon, and Graceland. More than twice went through Atlanta Hartsfield's terminal, some 90 million last year. So as Angela Giddens said, numerous airports are achieving a greater percentage of their revenues from non-aeronautical sources than from aeronautical sources. And in fact, even if the revenues are not quite up there at over 50%, we're finding the profits are over 50% coming from these commercial activities. So this has led to the third point, which is very important. Rapid commercial development around many major airports, on and around them, is making them leading urban growth generators as airport areas become significant employment, shopping, trading, and business destinations in their own right. At the Kenan Institute, we put concentric rings around the 25 largest airports in the US and looked at the growth in those rings and compared it to the suburban zone in which it was in. Much faster growth is occurring. What's interesting about airports, my friends in city planning, they're always concerned about sprawl. Sprawl, sprawl, sprawl. We're finding that for the first time in 50 years, we're reconcentrating population and jobs around these airports. They're countering sprawl. And this is why the organizational element and the sustainability element is so important. And the airport area itself is beginning to build a brand image. They'll be doing it here with Airport City, Denver. But the O'Hare area, I'm just thinking the US, Dulles. Dulles was named after John Foster Dulles, a Secretary of State, but it has its own designation, area designation. We're going to the DFW area. The rise of the Aerotropolis. The mayor had a nice schematic with the airport city at the core, like the central city or the central business district. The Aerotropolis are these spines and clusters of aviation-linked businesses and their associated residential complexes that are forming along airport corridors. Aerial photography shows you could see this form up to 20 miles from some airports with significant economic impact. Some nice MIT studies showing significant economic impact of the airport up to 60 miles from its boundaries. And what are they? I don't have to read them, but they range everything from business and technology parks and logistics parks and hotel, convention, tourism, entertainment centers, to large mixed-use residential complexes, to the new urbanism in the Aerotropolis age. Large airport edge cities such as Amsterdam, Zuidas, and Las Colinas, Texas, and Songdo, IDB. Instant cities sometimes forming, like Songdo, in 15 years the size of Boston. So those in urban geography, think of it just as you have Central City, Denver, and its rings of commuter-heavy suburbs, the Denver metropolis. You have airport cities, and then these strings and clusters of aviation-linked businesses that go out from the airport, the greater Aerotropolis. Central City, metropolis, airport city, Aerotropolis. So the airport city is not the Aerotropolis, but it is part of the Aerotropolis. It is the core, the center, the driver of the Aerotropolis. This is a composite of 12 airports that I've been following for 15 years and location functions. It's my schematic overview of the Aerotropolis with the airport city core. No airport area looks exactly like this. Some don't look like it at all. Kim, you were at LAX. You take an aerial photograph of around LAX, you're not going to see this. But what you will do is you do what's called first derivative analysis, look at where businesses have located in the last 5 years, 2007 and 2012, in the LAX area. You will see this. You won't see it if you take the aerial photograph because LAX opened in 1927. And so you're capturing 80 years of prior development in El Segundo and the other communities around it. But if you look at where businesses are locating now, This is the model with the segregation of the blue-collar and logistics function from the white-collar and information quarters, aero trains coming to the airport, aero lanes developing, various types of white-collar functions going out these critical quarters, the formation of airport edge cities, large hotel complexes. The largest hotel complex in the entire West Coast is right adjacent to LAX's fence. The largest concentration of hotel rooms on the West Coast. So you see this. You see universities gravitating to airport areas, medical tourism, medical and wellness. If I had time, I'd give you great detail, but I don't. But this is the future because it's measuring change. And the airport city and the aerotropolis are dynamic. It's the way forward. It's the way we are going. And why what Denver is doing is so important is that they learn from surfers in Southern California and from in Hawaii. You watch surfers that are, Manhattan Beach or La Jolla. They never, or Waikiki, they never paddle out to the wave. They paddle out 50 meters ahead of the wave and wait for that wave to come and pick them up. And aviation is that wave of the 21st century. The 21st century will be the aviation century. And so what is the 21st century commercial components tied to aviation going to look like? Let me take you from the center of the airport out to its aerotropolis and airport edge city and new urban realm 21st century periphery. I like the terminal in Indianapolis because they designed it from the start, Indianapolis, Indiana, for our international guests, as a central square. And the terminal is going to be the 21st century central square. This is the public area of Indianapolis International Airport, where around the periphery, there are local restaurants, some national chain restaurants and Starbucks, what have you, but also places like Indy 500 Authentics, where you can buy the memorabilia from the Indianapolis 500, giving it a local feel. But this is designed as a central square, and if those people that study urban development, urban design, know it all came out around the central square. As you move out slightly from that central square, we're finding new 4- and 5-star hotels, large hotels, directly attached to the terminal. This is the Grand Hyatt attached to Terminal D at DFW. I know Jeff Fagan's here. He'll tell you they get as much income from business meetings and from corporate meetings, sales meetings, as they do from overnight guests. That in fact, the Terminal D at DFW and many other major airport-linked hotels have become virtual corporate headquarters, particularly as the corporate real estate is downsizing. Executives in the corporations are being located in various sites around the country and sometimes around the world, so they have their corporate meetings at the airport. And so the hotels are becoming really virtual corporate headquarters. You're going to see more and more of that as the century progresses. We're going to see major new office hubs form. This opened last year. It was originally called Air Rail Center. It's the Square. Now this is 2 million square feet of Class A office space, retail, and hotel. 2 hotels are in there. It's over the ICT, the high-speed rail line, major highway next to it. But its real value is that it's a 6-minute moving sidewalk from the check-in counters at Frankfurt Airport. KPMG has just taken 40,000 square meters. They're in there now, 400,000 square feet. And I talked to the head of KPMG. I said, why didn't you go to downtown Frankfurt? It's nice and good business. He said, our executives are 6 minutes from the check-in counter, and we can bring in our clients from by air to meet from throughout Europe without an overnight stay. This is 1.5 million square feet of leasable space, doing very, very well. So airports are going to become 21st century office hubs. They're also going to spin off and spin out strings and clusters of high-tech and producer services, consulting, auditing, marketing along the highways. This is Northern Virginia, the Washington-Dulles Aerotropolis corridor, which incidentally, Greg, I thought was brilliant when MWA took it over. This is corridors run by the airport. Do you know that there were over 1 million jobs created in the 28-mile stretch between Reagan National Airport and Washington-Dulles Airport in the last 35 years? That there is more Class A office space in the Dulles Airport region than there is in the downtown District of Columbia? That the Dulles Aerotropolis is the second largest retail sales in the United States next to Manhattan? Airports areas have become significant commercial centers. And these are high-paying jobs. What I find really interesting, and we have speakers from, Maritz is here from Amsterdam, are these globally significant airport edge cities. And Zuidas, which has 11 million square feet of Class A office and is projected to go up to 23 million square feet, also 43% housing. It's on the rail line and highway 6 minutes from Amsterdam Schiphol Terminal. The world headquarters of ING Bank and ABN AMRO Bank. These are global headquarters, just like Las Colinas, which has, 5 Fortune 500 world headquarters just east of DFW. These airport edge cities are becoming globally significant. Then in the 21st century, there's the planned instant city, best represented by New Songdo City, and we'll hear a presentation by that, a leader, on Friday. This is a city built from scratch, built by corporations, for corporations and residents, the size of downtown Boston in 15 years, bringing architects, leading architects from New York, Milan, Paris, and go on, to design a city that they call City in a Box. A city in a box might not sound very appealing to you, but this is 21st century in every respect. LEED certified, all the environment. Cisco telepresence connected, okay, with all of the cultural, artistic, and central parks and canals. And these designs have been put together, can house anywhere from 250,000 to 2.5 million people, and can be rolled out very, very quickly. China needs 100 of these instant cities to just absorb its population. India, 70. The 21st century is going to be led by cities that have never grown the way these cities are being developed. They've always developed piecemeal for the most part. These are totally planned from the start. Instant cities, almost all of them now being formed near major international airports. The airport has become the key, the anchor, the fifth wave. Why? Because they provide connectivity, and connectivity provides prosperity. And what you need to understand about the Aerotropolis is that it's so much more than commercial real estate development. It goes way beyond it, because connectivity is absolutely pivotal to 21st century metropolitan competitiveness and prosperity. Connectivity has always been important, but in the global era, it's become, with these physical internets, it's become absolutely pivotal. And what does the Aerotropolis do? Well, the mayor talked about the corridor going along fast tracks, but there are others. The Aerotropolis will connect its businesses speedily to markets near and far. Improved surface transportation will connect Aerotropolis firms more efficiently to local and regional markets. Expanded air routes will provide quick and efficient connectivity to national and global markets. In the 21st century, the future, the next 88 years, the fastest, most agile, and best connected places will win. It's as simple as that. And that is the Aerotropolis model. Making your city, your region, the fastest, most agile, best connected location to do business. And you do it through aviation. So let me show you what this future will look like, how you make your airport city, and your greater aerotropolis the fastest, most agile, best connected place to do business that will provide you with competitive advantage. It's all about creating competitive advantage. A city made for speed is made for success. We're entering the fifth wave. Aviation airport-driven development. It's about infrastructure, but that's only part of it. But it's the foundation. The competitive success of any city rests on its physical and commercial infrastructure. And this is what's needed. Logistics and just-in-time manufacturing, smart infrastructure. Free trade zones to reduce taxes, cut red tape, boost your exports. E-commerce, distribution facilities for rapid response to customer orders. Flex tech, so you can source, assemble, repair, ship quickly. Intermodal freight hubs to bring together air, rail, highways, and ports. Office parks and office corridors to connect your air travel intensive executives and professionals. Exhibition and conference centers for trade and knowledge exchange. Hotels, entertainment, retail clusters that serve not only long-distance travelers but your local community. Medical and wellness clusters fostering medical tourism and healthcare provision. Academic and research clusters for executive education and to foster the specialty areas of the economy. And you have to house the aerotropolis workforce nearby so they don't have long commutes. It all starts at the airport. The multimodal commercial core of the aerotropolis. The terminal of the 21st century will be different than it is today. It's going to have multimodal, multi-functions. Look at the levels here and look at the definitions. Not just the food and beverage, airline services, business meetings, support services, flex offices, accommodation, corporate suites. Incidentally, all of this exists in some airports around the world. Nothing here is future, it's pulling it together. Inside the airport fence, office buildings, hotels, retail, exhibition complexes. Around the terminal, directly around the terminal, hotels, entertainment, shopping, meeting, offices. Driving out to the aerotropolis, the development, the greater aerotropolis, the business, the commercial, sustainably. Extending it further along the airport corridors, spinning off new edge cities. Attracting showrooms, convention venues, trade, exhibition along these corridors. Providing appropriate housing for the aerotropolis workforce so they don't have long commutes. With all community services, providing the aero trains and the aero lanes, the local movement, not just light rail, but automated people movers from the terminal to the commercial and sometimes accommodation modes. But just as important, as you go outside the fence, the aero lanes and the aero trains, like fast tracks that you have here, that connect the metropolitan region, the downtown and other areas. The freight rail that goes to the ports and other critical locations, distance locations. The corridors outward that house corporate office buildings and IT firms locating along the airport expressways. But most importantly, your corridor of opportunity, that connecting to the downtown, which is going to increasingly be filled with office and commercial development, with the aero trains and aero lanes rooming in the center, the core. Then all this needs to be synergized. You have to bring together the infrastructure, the commercial and the residential platforms so that they're economically efficient, attractive, and sustainable, and then drive it outward. The real value, though, of the airport city and the aerotropolis is the connectivity, the global connectivity, the physical internet that this provides. There's a human element to all of this. You touch, feel, see, participate, and it's about the future. The Aerotropolis is for your children and grandchildren. And it's arrived.